Hey everybody, this is Brock with Straight Line Delivery, and I wanted to make a video that goes over a question I get all the time when people are looking to get into hotshot. They'll ask me, should I buy a new truck or a used truck? And there's not just one answer to that question. Check this out. Okay, when you're thinking about getting into hotshot trucking, your very first purchases and how your first, I'd say 6 months to a year goes is very important. A lot of you don't have an expansive budget. You don't have room for any trouble in your life. So it used to be years ago, my accountant who really treats me well and really meets with me and tells me exactly what I should be doing. He got with me and he said, hey, you've got these trucks, you need to buy a new truck. You've got these used trucks, they're almost paid off, they're not doing you any good. And I didn't understand exactly what he meant. Well, at that time, you could buy a new truck. The interest rate was lower, so if you're a payment buyer, the payment was lower at that time, and you could write it off for 4 years. So what my experience was, and don't take my advice, always talk to an accountant, somebody you can trust about money. In my experience with the truck purchase I made, I was able to write it off the first year, the second year, the third year, and the fourth year. So with the diesel, I asked him, well, what do you mean you write it off over 4 years? I don't understand it. I thought you wrote it off all in one chunk. And he said, well, that depends on the tax law at that time. So at that time, this is 2018, and I'm filming this video in March of 2024. So at that time, you could depreciate a truck over 4 years. And what that meant was you could write off whatever the value of the truck was according to, I don't know if it's Kelley Blue Book or if the IRS has some sort of chart. I don't know that part. But basically, if you've got a, let's say, $75,000 truck, and you can write off $75,000 year one. Well, year two, now you've got a 1-year-old truck. Well, how much is it worth? Well, the IRS said it was worth about $62,000. Okay, so the second year, I can write off $62,000. Then the next year, it's like worth, $52,000. And then the third year, $45,000, whatever. The point is, I got all sorts of tax benefits for 4 years from buying that brand new truck. I got to write off, I don't even know what, it was a lot, okay? So that helped me make a decision. Number one, I got a great interest rate. Used trucks at that time were, the interest rate was like twice as much. So it was gonna make the payment a bit higher. I could still write it off for 4 years, but also at that time, 2018, if you had a major problem with your truck, everything was flowing smoothly. COVID hadn't hit yet. Supply chain issues hadn't hit yet. So if something went wrong with that truck, they could get me in and get me out. I never really had any trouble with my truck, but I know plenty of people who, you buy a new truck and sometimes you get a lemon. Sometimes you get one that's got something wrong with it. In 2018, brand new truck, you could get in and out of a dealership under warranty without much of a problem. Fast forward to where we're at now, 2024. Everyone complains that they don't have any supply. They don't have enough mechanics. They don't have enough anybody. Nobody wants to work. There's supply chain issues. Everyone still blames it on COVID. I'm not even going to get into that. I don't know what the problem is. All I know is I work every day. I don't have supply chain issues, and I'm still working. But apparently the rest of the world isn't. Okay, so you have to adjust the way you behave and the decisions you make according to that. So 2 years ago, 2022, I had to buy a personal vehicle for myself, for my family. And I went and I looked at a brand new vehicle and I asked about the interest rate. And then I went to look at a used vehicle and asked about the interest rate. Now the used vehicle was a Jeep Wrangler. And those were selling for a little higher than what they were actually worth. Everybody kind of got into a Jeep crazy phase, and I think they're still in it. They're still a little overvalued. Anyway, I found out that I could get a much lower interest rate on the used Jeep than I could the new car. That's never been what I'd experienced before. So that helped drive my decision making. Also remember, now we're in 2022. Something breaks with your car, nobody's got parts anyway. I've got the choice between a brand new vehicle and a used Jeep Wrangler. Well, the Jeep Wrangler had a super low interest rate, almost like free money. So I thought, okay, the smartest thing to do for me would be to buy this Jeep that's used with a low interest rate and then keep any down payment money I was considering using back and hold it in case there's any problems. Because if I have problems with this new car, the chances of them getting it fixed for me in a timely manner aren't good anyway. Whereas this Jeep Wrangler, I know it has an infinite amount of possibilities to order extra parts. There's a big aftermarket for every part on that Jeep, motors, everything included. So I thought, let's save that money back in case I have trouble. All right. Now, how's that help you? Well, the same thing is the same decisions are something that you would have to think for yourself. I always tell people, plan on the worst thing imaginable happening. Your very first week with your hot shot, you blow a motor, you blow a transmission. What's going to happen? Okay, well, there's two scenarios the way I see it. One, you've got a brand new truck. Obviously, it's under warranty. You're kind of, thank God for that. But what good's it going to do you if you can't get it fixed in a reasonable amount of time? Okay, so let's say it's under warranty, but they can't get a new motor for 4 months or 6 months or 8 months. And that's something that is a concern. I've talked to a car dealership owner who said, whether it's Chevy or Ford, they're on back order. You're in real trouble. So something to think of where you buy the truck, especially if you live near a state line, check and see what the lemon laws are in your state. So for Ohio, you have a 30-day lemon law. I talked to my attorney about this. You have a 30-day lemon law if you're Ford or Chevy. You've got to make the person's vehicle in working order in 30 days, or you have to buy it back from them. And I believe that's at full price. You could check me on that. So that's good, but you could be out of work for a month. Now, if you've got a used vehicle and you found a great deal on a used truck that's no longer in warranty, and you buy it, you get a decent interest rate, you take any extra money you have for repairs and you just keep that back. So you go buy, and I've done this, you go buy a junkyard motor, have a mechanic pop a new one in, and you're back on the road. Because even though the new truck in this example is under warranty, that's great. If you're out of work for even 30 days and they buy it back and you go truck shopping, what are you realistically going to be out of work for? 6 weeks, 7, 8 weeks? Okay. How much money can you generate with a new truck in that amount of time? And I know these numbers probably to you, if you've never done this before, they sound big. They sound kind of ridiculous. But I'd much rather go spend $15,000, $20,000 on a junkyard motor, have it put in, and then get back on the road within a week. Because then I'm not losing in my pocket $3,000 a week. Because that's about what my drivers make, about $3,000 a week. You multiply that by 5, 6, 7 weeks, and you're talking about losing a lot of money. Whereas with a used truck, get right back on the road, you're not losing any money, and you're back in business. So I always tell people, whether you buy a brand new truck or a used truck, plan on the worst case scenario. Try for the best, plan for the worst. Oldest saying in the world, but it makes a lot of sense, especially in this case, when we're in an interesting phase of our economy, the parts market. They're just having a lot of trouble getting parts in. They're having a lot of trouble getting stuff fixed, even though it's under warranty. And the laws kind of work in their favor as car dealers. That's why I say, find out what the lemon laws are in your state, plan for the worst case scenario, and have some money set back just in case something horrible happens your very first week out there, especially if you're going with a used truck. And my advice is, I don't even want to say advice. My experience, here's what I have done. And always check for yourself. I'm just a guy on the internet. But what I have done is I've kept money back. I keep $10,000 or $15,000 when I'm running a truck. I set that as zero. That means I have $0. Because if that transmission goes out and you go to a shop, and I've had experience doing this, and I say, here's what I need, here's what I do for a living, and oh, by the way, I've got cash, so I want to cut in line. Your soccer mom's minivan over there you're working on the air conditioning unit, get rid of that, get my truck in there and get it fixed first. I'll pay cash. And they go, yes, sir, right away, sir. Every small business loves cash. So if you can do those things with your truck and your trailer, just keep some money back. Don't spend it all. Keep some money back for emergencies. Cash is king with small businesses. Find a repair shop around you that you trust to work on diesels, and find one that'll work on the weekends. Don't wait till there's something wrong on Friday, you're limping home and you don't have anybody to work on your truck. So that's kind of an example, I guess a little comparison of new truck versus used. Talk to your accountant, find out what your interest rate is on a new truck, find out what your interest rate is on a new truck, and if you've got cash and you're thinking, hey, I'll put down $20,000 as a down payment, don't, if you can help it. Let the bank, especially if the interest rate is low, let the bank take the risk on that truck. Then, especially if you've got the used truck and it's not under warranty, you got $20,000 you were going to put down on that, keep that money in the bank for an emergency. Something goes wrong with that truck, you can get it fixed, boom, like that. Get back on the road. So I hope this helps with your decision making. I know having a professional accountant in my corner through my whole life has really helped me make good decisions financially, even when sometimes it doesn't feel like the right decision. Like when he called me and told me to buy a new truck in 2018, I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not buying a new truck. I have 2 trucks. One of them's paid off, and one of them I've been working on to get it just right, just the way I liked it. They were both perfect in my opinion. And he explained to me, look, you can no longer write them off, so they are no good to you anymore. Now, the second way the write-offs work, which is what we're in now, and like I said, depends on the tax structure at the time, and a lot of that has to do with what administration is in the White House. So the way the tax law works now is if you buy a new truck, you have to write 100% of it off that first year, and that's it. Year number 2, you cannot deduct that truck from your taxes. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, you buy a $75,000 truck your first year in business. If it's toward the end of the year and you haven't made a ton of money that year, you're going to have a $75,000 write-off and you haven't even made $100,000. That does you no good. You want to write a truck off that's $75,000. The way it currently stands, if you can only do it one shot, you want to buy that thing in January. You plan on making $225,000 that year gross. You plan on putting $150,000 to $170,000 in your pocket. That's all taxable income. Now you have a $75,000 write-off. So let's say $150,000 bring home is now cut in half because you've got $75,000 worth of truck to write off. Now you're paying taxes on $75,000. That cuts your tax burden in half. And my accountant told me just always assume that your taxes are going to be about 20%. Usually they're not. Usually with write-offs and other expenditures, you get into a lower tax bracket depending on how much you earn. But if you have to pay 20% of $75,000 versus 20% of $150,000, you can see how that truck that you may have had for years and it's paid off can actually not really help you as far as putting money in your pocket. So those are decisions you have to make depending on your situation, where you're coming from. If you're a cash buyer, some of this goes out the window, but for the most part, know the tax structure for the current year that you want to buy. And then when it gets toward the end of the year or a new administration, like we're having an election coming up this year, we can kind of find out maybe in the fall, if there's going to be a different administration in the White House, what will their tax program be and what can we kind of depend on, and then when will they implement it? They might plan on changing stuff, but they may not do it the very first year. So again, like I said, always consult a trusted tax advisor, somebody you trust with money, and ask them if what I'm saying is true. And if it's not, correct me. I love to learn new stuff too. And I don't want to spread wrong information, but this has been my experience. I've been doing this since 2011. So I've kind of had new, used, and everything in between. I've put new motors in trucks. I've kind of run the gamut. And those have been my experiences and what I think works best for me. So if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the, I guess it'll be the comment section below. I'll also leave some contact information if you've got any questions about starting your own hotshot business, or if you want to sign on with somebody, I can help you with that. Usually, if you're looking for equipment, I can usually kind of guide you in the right direction. All right, guys, thanks.